No, I do have one, but I don't know how PG-13 it is. But I got my driver's license. Shame, deep shame.
And it might be a little inappropriate to say, but I'm going to say it.
The most embarrassing thing that happened to me probably happened to me here during pregame. I attempted to sit on a hammock, and as most people know, that is a difficult task if you've never done it before. And I fell flat on my back, and unfortunately, there were a lot of little sticky plants under me. So when I got up, I was full of everything. And one of the guys saw me, and we just had a laugh about it. But it was pretty embarrassing.
I would have to say visiting my daughter's dormitory with a room full of girls and having to explain why dad is there to make sure they're on the right toes and not terrify all of them.
In a very quiet DMV, I broke wind and everybody looked at me and I had to sit there another hour very awkwardly and I was sweating and it was just awful. But I got my driver's license.
One of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me is my first day of middle school. I was sitting at a lunch table and this girl came and spilled water all over me in front of everybody. And I mean, in middle school, things like that feel like such a big deal. And it's really funny because the girl ended up being my best friend and we're still best friends to this day. But yeah, we still laugh about that moment because I was drenched in water, didn't have a change of clothes. It was the first day of middle school. And yeah, I pretty much wanted to cry.
Living on a ranch, I don't have a lot of embarrassing stories because you're not around people a whole lot. But my brothers and I had a band when we were young, so we would kind of travel around and we would sing at local churches or little fairs or some kind of whatever little venue we could get. We would be the Reese Brothers and we would sing and provide entertainment. Well, one time we were at this church and my brother and I were getting ready to sing. And I usually play a banjo, but for this one, I had picked up his bass guitar. And I'm like, well, anybody can play a bass guitar, right? So certainly I can play it for this song, and just we kind of needed a bass on that. So I picked it up and we start singing, and I don't know, there's probably 200, maybe 250 people there, but I am just butchering it. I am just killing every chord. I mean, and it is clearly wrong. And my brother's kind of looking at me and I kind of just stop the whole thing and I look at him and I say, sorry, man, wrong stick. I picked up the wrong stick. So I grabbed my banjo, picked it up and started playing that. So very embarrassing, recovered and went on. And, it's those little things like that that actually turn it into more fun and provide entertainment. So yeah, very good deal.
I'm a pastor, I'm a preacher, I'm a speaker. So standing in front of people and speaking every day is what I do. And so there was one instance where my dress tore in the back and the choir was behind me. And there were like maybe 1,000 people sitting in front of me. And someone came up and whispered to me that my dress was torn in the back. And like, I just had on these really funky colored underwear. And I was like, this was my first day at this particular location and it was a whole bunch of young adults. And it was like quite an entrance into my new pastoral assignment. So that's one of the most probably embarrassing stories. I think they were like superhero underwear. Like, anyways.
One of the most absolute embarrassing things that's happened to me was I was texting somebody in a flirtatious manner when I was in my early 20s. And there was a glitch with the phone software at the time, so that if you were in the middle of sending a text message and you received a text message from a different person, your reply would be sent to that person. So while texting someone that I was dating at the time, I accidentally sent the reply to my mother, who texted me in the middle of typing. We didn't talk for 2 weeks after that because it was just too awkward.
I do embarrassing things all the time, but I don't embarrass easily. But one moment that stands out is a couple of years ago, I met Canadian songstress Jan Arden. If you don't know her, she's a big deal in Canada. And I got a photo with her. I chatted with her. I was so excited that afterwards, I was texting my friend my photo with her and ended up just face planting. Like my face was on concrete and I was bleeding like in front of her.
I went to the sushi bar with my wife. It was our favorite sushi bar in Los Angeles.
when I was living there. And everybody knew us there because we went like every week. So I was at the sushi bar. I remember I had like a hand roll in my hand, right? And the sushi, the waitress asked us if we can move over so that another couple can sit at these 2 chairs, right? So she pulled out my chair, I was standing up. She pulled out my chair, and I assumed she pushed my chair back in, right? So when I took a step over and I just sat down, I sat on air. I just fell flat on my ass with the sushi roll still in my hand. The whole restaurant turned around and was laughing at me. I turned beet red. And I usually don't get very embarrassed, but I was definitely embarrassed at that time. However, never let go of that sushi roll. So I'm kind of proud of that. And the sushi chef, could not stop laughing. He was like, oh, he's like literally pointing at me while laughing. And then the rest of the night, he gave me free sushi. So I'm cool.
I laugh at things. I laugh at myself. I probably do a lot of things and had a lot of things happen to me that would embarrass the hell out of a lot of people, but I just don't really get embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed. Now I might get embarrassed if I poop my pants out there.
Off the top of my head was like, I fart a lot. Like I really do. Like I've been to doctors about this. My mom, when I was a kid, was like, there's something wrong with you. And some days I have more flatulence than others. And I'll never forget, in 1st grade, I sat in the back of the class that day because I was having lots of farting problems. And I was sitting in the front. And I just let one rip. And the teacher looks at me, everyone looks at me, and she's like, Sydney, when you make noises like that, say excuse me. And that is printed in my head forever. Like I wish people would just forget, but I guarantee everyone remembers because I remember the kid in 1st grade who threw up. Like I still see him to this day and I'll be like, you threw up in 1st grade.
The most embarrassing of many stories that I have is probably when I pooped my pants in college, was running back from Westwood to UCLA and didn't quite make it to the dorms and had a wonderful experience with urgency.
Ooh, okay. So the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me for a bunch of different reasons was I was turning up with some friends. I was like much younger, turning up with some friends, and I got a little carried away, and I ended up just we were in a jacuzzi, which is a big no-no. Now I know that. But we were in a jacuzzi, and I kind of like was, just a little loopy, and then the next thing I know, I woke up and I was literally throwing up in this girl's pool, in her backyard, like almost in her house. Like I was trying to fight my friend to like leave the backyard. And like, it was just really embarrassing because then you wake up the next morning and there's literally throw up in your hair. And this is no indication of how I am. This is back in my reckless days too, but there's throw up in your hair and you just like exhausted and you're like, wow, I don't even know half of what happened. I know I just threw up in someone's pool. So that's going to be a problem for them. They're probably going to have to fumigate that or chlorinate it some way. Like, I don't know. So it was embarrassing because people usually know me as a pretty, well put together guy. And that night I was anything but put together.
So I was little and I have 2 older brothers who I love. And I was just like getting potty trained and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I've seen my brothers stand up to the bathroom. So I was like, well, I can do that too. And so I stood up and went to the bathroom and it went everywhere. But yeah, I think that's one of like the most embarrassing things that I've done as a child.
When I was in high school, I went to a Jewish summer camp and we were on a 4-day backpacking trip. And of course, because of my amazing luck, I got my period right at the beginning of it. And it's 4 days, carry in, carry out. And just like, that was a miserable element of the experience, was having my period and having to deal with tampons and pads and things like that. And at some point, I was wearing a pad. This might be like I said, I'm an overshare. This might be way too much TMI. But I was wearing a pad in my underwear and there was a cute boy right behind me that I kind of have been talking to throughout the hike, and it starts pouring rain, and we're on top of a mountain, and it starts thundering and lightning. So it's actually a really dangerous situation. So the guide at the front of it, this like kind of burly Israeli man is just like, run! And so all of us, teenagers start running through the woods with our crazy heavy backpacks. And of course, between the rain and the running, my pad literally just falls out of my underwear, splat in the trail. And I just don't know what to do. So I just pick it up and throw it into the woods. And the cute boy behind me is like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. And then just kept running. So, hopefully something like that doesn't happen on Survivor, but I'm prepped for it.
When I experienced electricity, I was around 14, 15 years old. We were growing up poor. So, for example, I had just one pair of underwear that I had to wash every night, right? Before we go to bed, we will put on the hanging line, or, the drying line. And in the morning, it will be dried. So I can wear it again to go to school. One day I woke up, found, since it was a monsoon rainy season, it was totally wet. I can't borrow my father's underwear or my brother's underwear. All that they had only just one pair of underwear. So what I did, I heard somewhere the heat can dry things up quicker. So what I did, I took my underwear, I wrap it around the bulb. I went to take a bath in the river right next to our home, actually, where we bathed and where we washed our clothes. So I tied up and went to take a bath, came back on the way. I can hear my father was like, something smells bad. Something smells really bad. I'm sure Nasi did something stupid. So I came close to my room because there were no windows, because it was kind of newly brick walls built step by step. They built it. So my poor mom holding a jar of water and standing by the door, and smoke start coming out of the room. Then I'm like, oh, what's going on? I went and look up. The elastic of the underwear, the rubber part was burnt, and it started dripping on the floor. I quickly get up, take the underwear down. The underwear was into two pieces, this elastic. So I asked my mom, can I have a safety pin? Because my school uniform was just complete pure white, actually. And I'm a brown guy going in teenage, like 13, 14 years old, wearing a pure white without underwear. It doesn't look good, So quickly managed to put the safety pin together, put the underwear, went over there, went to school. It's like 10 minutes to walk. It was raining still. Sit in the classroom, and I did not realize that rubber burnt smell, the fume come out in the classroom. Everybody was looking towards me, and I'm like, oh shit. I told one of my friends, hey, this is what's happening, man. Then quickly we went out, and I was embarrassed. All the girls are looking at me, and but that was fun. But until to the day when I go back to Sri Lanka on a vacation, my friends ask, hey, Nasir, can I borrow your underwear, man?
So recently, I am normally I teach middle school children that are suspended from regular schools, and they come to our alternative learning center, and they're middle schoolers, and they come with a lot of challenges, and I love them. They're wonderful, but they weren't suspended this year because of school and COVID. So I was deployed to be a remote teacher for third graders, and I was new to the Google Classroom. And I was putting up, things on the Google Classroom for the third graders to do. The third graders, to just make the story even more inappropriate. And for some reason, when I typed one of the words, and I don't know if I can even say this, but I'm going to say it. Instead of writing, please see the Google Docs, it turned it into Google Dicks, and their parents have full view of that. And I think I left it up for 24 hours, and God bless those parents. They never said anything to me, but I saw it in the morning and I was mortified. And they're young. It probably went right over their head, but it did not go over mine. And I was like, wow, that is really bad. And that was pretty embarrassing.